In the heart of a desolate landscape, where the sun dared not pierce the thick veil of mist, there stood the forgotten city of Bodhi. Its name whispered in hushed tones among the few who dared to speak of it, a relic of a bygone era lost to the annals of time. Once, Bodhi had been a beacon of prosperity, its streets alive with the hustle and bustle of a thriving metropolis. But now, it lay in ruins, a shadow of its former glory, haunted by the echoes of its past. The origins of Bodhi were shrouded in mystery, its true history lost to the passage of centuries. Some whispered of a great king who had built the city with his own hands, while others spoke of darker, more sinister origins, hinting at rituals and sacrifices made to appease ancient gods. Whatever the truth may have been, one thing was certain: Bodhi was a place of darkness, where the very air seemed to thrum with an otherworldly energy, and the shadows danced with a life of their own. Few dared to venture near the accursed city, for tales of its horrors spread like wildfire among the surrounding villages. They spoke of strange apparitions that lurked in the mist-shrouded streets, of whispers that seemed to emanate from the very walls themselves, luring unsuspecting travelers to their doom. But despite the warnings, there were always those who sought to unravel the mysteries of Bodhi, drawn by the promise of untold riches and the thrill of uncovering secrets long buried beneath the sands of time. Among them was a young historian named Evelyn Crane, whose thirst for knowledge knew no bounds. She had spent years studying the ancient texts and manuscripts that spoke of Bodhi, piecing together fragments of information in the hopes of uncovering the truth behind the city's downfall. Now, standing at the edge of the mist-shrouded landscape, Evelyn felt a thrill of anticipation coursing through her veins. She had finally found the means to unlock the secrets of Bodhi, a map that purported to lead to the heart of the city itself. With a determined set to her jaw, Evelyn set out into the swirling mists, her footsteps muffled by the soft carpet of moss that covered the forest floor. The air was thick with the cloying scent of decay, and the distant cry of some unseen creature echoed through the darkness. As she pressed on, Evelyn felt the weight of centuries bearing down upon her, as if the very land itself resented her intrusion. But she refused to be deterred, her mind consumed by the tantalizing prospect of uncovering the truth that lay hidden within the ruins of Bodhi. As Evelyn ventured deeper into the mist-shrouded forest, the world seemed to blur and shift around her, as if the very fabric of reality were bending to accommodate her presence. Strange shapes loomed in the darkness, their forms twisted and contorted by the passage of time, and the air grew heavy with the oppressive weight of ancient magic. But still, she pressed on, her determination unyielding in the face of the unknown. She had come too far to turn back now, her curiosity driving her ever onward, toward the heart of the forgotten city. At last, after what felt like an eternity of wandering through the labyrinthine forest, Evelyn emerged into a clearing bathed in the sickly glow of the moon. Before her lay the crumbling ruins of Bodhi, its once grand structures now little more than crumbling remnants of a bygone era. As she stepped cautiously into the ruined city, Evelyn felt a chill run down her spine, as if the very stones themselves were watching her every move. The silence was deafening, broken only by the soft sound of her own footsteps echoing against the ancient cobblestones. But beneath the surface, she could sense something stirring, a presence lurking in the shadows, waiting to reveal itself to the unwary traveler. She quickened her pace, her heart pounding in her chest as she made her way deeper into the heart of the city. Everywhere she looked, Evelyn saw signs of the city's former glory, its streets lined with crumbling buildings and decaying monuments that spoke of a time long past. But as she ventured further into the heart of Bodhi, she began to sense something more sinister lurking beneath the surface, something that had been buried for centuries, waiting to be unleashed upon the world once more. And then, she saw it, a faint glimmer of light emanating from the depths of a nearby alleyway, drawing her ever closer with its hypnotic allure. With a sense of trepidation, Evelyn stepped into the darkness, her footsteps echoing against the ancient stones as she followed the light deeper into the heart of the city. As Evelyn ventured deeper into the heart of the city, the light grew brighter, illuminating the surrounding ruins with an eerie glow. But with each step she took, the shadows seemed to grow thicker, pressing in on her from all sides like a suffocating embrace. She could feel eyes watching her every move, unseen and unrelenting, their gaze piercing through the darkness with an intensity that sent shivers down her spine. But still, she pressed on, her determination unyielding in the face of the unknown. At last, she reached the source of the light, a small chamber hidden deep within the heart of the ruins, its walls adorned with strange symbols and sigils that pulsed with an otherworldly energy. In the center of the room stood a pedestal, upon which rested a small, ornate box adorned with intricate carvings. With trembling hands, Evelyn reached out and opened the box, revealing its contents to the world for the first time in centuries. Inside, nestled amidst a bed of velvet, lay a single, shimmering gemstone, its surface sparkling with a mesmerizing brilliance that seemed to draw the very essence of the surrounding darkness into its depths. As Evelyn gazed upon the gemstone, she felt a strange sense of unease wash over her, as if the very fabric of reality were unraveling before her eyes. She could hear whispers echoing in the darkness, their voices soft and insistent, urging her to claim the gemstone for her own. But she knew better than to succumb to the city's dark influence, for she had seen firsthand the horrors that lay hidden within its depths. With a sense of resolve, she closed the box and tucked it safely away, vowing to keep its secrets hidden from the world. But even as she turned to leave, Evelyn could feel the city's malevolent presence closing in around her, its shadows reaching out to ensnare her in their grasp. With a sinking feeling in her heart, she realized that she was not alone in the darkness, and that the true horrors of Bodhi had yet to reveal themselves. As Evelyn made her way back through the mist-shrouded streets of Bodhi, she could feel the city's malevolent presence closing in around her, its shadows twisting and contorting in the darkness like living things. She quickened her pace, her heart pounding in her chest as she sought to escape the city's grasp before it was too late. But no matter how fast she ran, the shadows seemed to follow her every move, their whispers growing louder with each passing moment. She could hear them now, their voices soft and insistent, urging her to abandon all reason and embrace the darkness that lurked within her soul. With a sense of growing dread, Evelyn realized that she was not alone in the city, that the spirits of the damned still roamed its crumbling streets, seeking to claim her as one of their own. And as she turned a corner and came face to face with a shadowy figure that lurked in the darkness, she knew that her time in Bodhi had come to an end. With a blood-curdling scream, Evelyn turned and fled, her footsteps echoing against the ancient cobblestones as she raced through the mist-shrouded streets. But no matter how fast she ran, the shadows seemed to be closing in around her, their icy grasp tightening with each passing moment. And then, just as it seemed that all hope was lost, Evelyn saw it, a faint glimmer of light shining in the darkness, beckoning her toward safety. With a surge of adrenaline, she raced toward the light, her heart pounding in her chest as she prayed for deliverance from the horrors that lurked in the shadows. At last, she burst through the veil of mist and into the open air, her lungs burning with exertion as she collapsed onto the forest floor. She could hear the sounds of the city fading into the distance, its whispers growing fainter with each passing moment, until at last, there was nothing but silence. But even as Evelyn lay there, gasping for breath, she knew that she would never truly escape the horrors of Bodhi, that its darkness would haunt her dreams for all eternity. And as she closed her eyes and drifted off into unconsciousness, she could feel the city's malevolent presence lingering in the air around her, waiting to claim her soul as its own. When Evelyn awoke, she found herself in a small clearing on the outskirts of the forest, the dim light of dawn filtering through the canopy above. Her body ached with exhaustion, and her mind was still reeling from the horrors she had witnessed in the depths of Bodhi. As she struggled to her feet, Evelyn couldn't shake the feeling that she was being watched, that unseen eyes lingered in the shadows, waiting for the opportune moment to strike. But when she turned to look, there was nothing but the swaying branches of the trees and the gentle rustle of leaves in the wind. With a sense of unease gnawing at her insides, Evelyn set off through the forest, her footsteps echoing against the soft carpet of moss that covered the forest floor. She had to put as much distance between herself and Bodhi as possible, to escape the city's malevolent influence once and for all. But even as she walked, Evelyn couldn't shake the feeling that something was following her, that the shadows themselves were reaching out to ensnare her in their grasp. And then, just as she reached the edge of the forest and stepped out into the open plains beyond, she heard it, a soft, haunting melody drifting through the air, its notes echoing in the stillness of the dawn. Curiosity getting the better of her, Evelyn followed the sound, her heart pounding in her chest as she ventured deeper into the wilderness. And then, at last, she came upon a small clearing bathed in the soft light of dawn, where a figure stood, shrouded in mist and shadow. With a sense of trepidation, Evelyn approached the figure, her eyes widening in astonishment as she saw what lay before her. It was a creature unlike any she had ever seen, its form twisted and contorted by the ancient magic that coursed through its veins. And as Evelyn gazed upon the creature, she felt a strange sense of familiarity wash over her, as if she had known it in another lifetime. With a sense of unease, she realized that this was no ordinary being, but a denizen of the Shadow Realm, come to strike a bargain with the unwary traveler who had stumbled into its domain. The creature regarded Evelyn with eyes as black as midnight, its gaze piercing through the depths of her soul with an intensity that sent shivers down her spine. It spoke then, its voice soft and melodious, like the whisper of the wind through the trees. "You seek knowledge, mortal," the creature said, its voice echoing in the stillness of the dawn. "But knowledge comes at a price that few are willing to pay." Evelyn hesitated, her mind racing as she weighed the consequences of the creature's words. She knew that striking a bargain with a denizen of the Shadow Realm was dangerous, that the consequences could be dire indeed. But the lure of knowledge was too great to resist, and she found herself nodding in agreement. "What is it you seek?" the creature asked, its voice tinged with amusement. "What knowledge do you crave, that you would risk everything to obtain it?" Evelyn hesitated, unsure of how to respond. There were so many questions she had, so many mysteries she longed to unravel. But in the end, there was only one thing that truly mattered to her. "I seek the truth," she said at last, her voice firm with determination. "The truth behind the downfall of Bodhi, the secrets hidden within its crumbling ruins." The creature regarded her for a moment, its eyes glittering with an otherworldly light. And then, with a slow, deliberate movement, it reached out a hand and placed it upon Evelyn's forehead, sending a jolt of energy coursing through her veins. And in that moment, Evelyn's mind was flooded with images and sensations, memories of a time long past, when Bodhi had been a place of light and life. She saw the city as it had once been, its streets teeming with people and laughter, its buildings reaching toward the heavens in a testament to human ingenuity. But beneath the surface, she saw something else, something darker and more sinister. She saw the rituals and sacrifices that had been made to appease ancient gods, the darkness that had been unleashed upon the city, consuming it from within like a festering wound. And as she watched, Evelyn realized the true horror of what had happened in Bodhi, the price that had been paid for the city's arrogance and greed. And in that moment, she knew that the knowledge she sought had come at a cost far greater than she could ever have imagined. As the memories of Bodhi's downfall faded from her mind, Evelyn found herself standing once more in the clearing, the creature regarding her with an inscrutable expression. She could feel its gaze boring into her soul, searching for any sign of weakness or doubt. "You have seen the truth, mortal," the creature said at last, its voice low and melodious. "But knowledge alone is not enough to satisfy the hunger of the Shadow Realm. There is still a price to be paid, a debt that must be repaid in blood." Evelyn's heart skipped a beat at the creature's words, her mind racing as she struggled to comprehend their meaning. She knew that she had made a grave mistake in striking a bargain with the denizen of the Shadow Realm, that the consequences could be dire indeed. But even as fear gnawed at her insides, Evelyn knew that there was no turning back now, that she had come too far to abandon her quest for knowledge. With a sense of resignation, she nodded in agreement, steeling herself for whatever fate awaited her. "Very well," she said, her voice steady despite the fear that gripped her heart. "I accept your terms. What is it you require of me?" The creature regarded her for a moment, its eyes glittering with amusement. And then, with a slow, deliberate movement, it reached out a hand and placed it upon Evelyn's chest, sending a jolt of energy coursing through her veins. And in that moment, Evelyn felt something shift within her, a darkness stirring deep within her soul. She knew then that she had become bound to the creature, that her fate was now inexorably intertwined with its own. But even as she struggled to come to terms with her newfound reality, Evelyn knew that she could not afford to dwell on the consequences of her actions. For she had seen the truth behind the downfall of Bodhi, and she knew that it was her destiny to share that truth with the world, no matter the cost. Days passed in a blur as Evelyn made her way back to civilization, her mind consumed by the memories of her time in Bodhi and the pact she had made with the denizen of the Shadow Realm. She knew that she had taken a great risk in striking a bargain with such a creature, that the consequences could be dire indeed. But even as fear gnawed at her insides, Evelyn refused to be deterred from her quest for knowledge. For she had seen the truth behind the downfall of Bodhi, and she knew that it was her destiny to share that truth with the world, no matter the cost. At last, after what felt like an eternity of wandering through the wilderness, Evelyn emerged into the outskirts of a small village, its buildings clustered together like islands in a sea of green. With a sense of relief, she made her way toward the village, her heart pounding in her chest as she sought out the one person who could help her uncover the secrets of Bodhi. His name was Professor Jonathan Blake, a renowned archaeologist and scholar who had spent years studying the ancient ruins scattered throughout the region. Evelyn had met him once before, during her studies at the university, and she knew that he was the only person who could help her unlock the mysteries of Bodhi. With a sense of determination, Evelyn sought out the professor's home, her footsteps echoing against the cobblestones as she made her way through the winding streets of the village. And then, at last, she stood before the professor's door, her heart pounding in her chest as she raised her hand to knock. But before she could do so, the door swung open, revealing the figure of Professor Blake standing on the threshold. He regarded her with a curious expression, his eyes narrowing in suspicion as he took in her disheveled appearance. "Evelyn," he said at last, his voice tinged with surprise. "What brings you to my doorstep? And what is the meaning of this pact you speak of?" Evelyn hesitated, unsure of how to begin, but the professor's keen gaze urged her to speak. With a deep breath, she recounted her journey to Bodhi, her encounter with the denizen of the Shadow Realm, and the pact she had made in exchange for knowledge. As she spoke, Professor Blake listened intently, his expression growing more grave with each passing moment. When she had finished, he regarded her with a mixture of concern and fascination, his mind racing with the implications of her words. "This is most troubling, Evelyn," he said at last, his voice low and serious. "If what you say is true, then we must tread carefully. The denizens of the Shadow Realm are not to be trifled with, and their influence extends far beyond the borders of Bodhi." Evelyn nodded in agreement, her mind reeling with the enormity of what she had done. She knew that she had taken a great risk in seeking out the truth behind the downfall of Bodhi, that the consequences could be dire indeed. But even as fear gnawed at her insides, Evelyn knew that she could not afford to dwell on the consequences of her actions. For she had seen the truth behind the city's downfall, and she knew that it was her destiny to share that truth with the world, no matter the cost. With a sense of determination, Evelyn and Professor Blake set out for Bodhi once more, their minds consumed by the mysteries that lay hidden within its crumbling ruins. For they knew that the fate of the city rested in their hands, and that only by uncovering its darkest secrets could they hope to free it from the grip of the Shadow Realm once and for all. As Evelyn and Professor Blake made their way through the mist-shrouded streets of Bodhi, they could feel the city's malevolent presence closing in around them, its shadows twisting and contorting in the darkness like living things. But they refused to be deterred, their minds consumed by the quest for knowledge that had brought them here. At last, they reached the heart of the city, where the ruins of Bodhi loomed like silent sentinels in the mist. With a sense of trepidation, they ventured deeper into the darkness, their footsteps echoing against the ancient cobblestones as they made their way toward the chamber where Evelyn had made her pact with the denizen of the Shadow Realm. But as they entered the chamber, they found it empty, the box containing the gemstone gone without a trace. With a sinking feeling in her heart, Evelyn realized that they had been too late, that the creature had already claimed its prize and fled into the depths of the city. But even as despair threatened to consume her, Evelyn refused to give up hope. For she knew that the fate of Bodhi rested in their hands, and that only by confronting the denizen of the Shadow Realm could they hope to free the city from its grasp once and for all. With a sense of determination, Evelyn and Professor Blake set out to track down the creature, their minds consumed by the quest for knowledge that had brought them here. And as they ventured deeper into the darkness, they could feel the city's malevolent presence closing in around them, its shadows reaching out to ensnare them in their grasp. But they pressed on, their resolve unyielding in the face of the unknown, for they knew that they were the city's last hope, and that only by confronting the darkness that lurked within its depths could they hope to bring an end to the nightmare that had haunted Bodhi for centuries. And so, with hearts filled with determination and minds consumed by the quest for knowledge, Evelyn and Professor Blake ventured deeper into the heart of the city, their footsteps echoing against the ancient cobblestones as they prepared to face their ultimate destiny.